Hi. So this is a series of support modules aimed at high achieving business owners. And in this discussion, I want us to focus on the issue of pricing, because pricing is a topic which people are often asking about. And so today we're going to explore why it's so important to get your pricing right. And then in the rest of the set, we'll look at different pricing models which you might like to consider for your own business. Now, the idea is it's not to tell you how to price your products or your services, what your markup should be, what your price should be, because of course I can't do that. But rather it's to give you the opportunity to take just a few minutes out of the day to think about an aspect of pricing, stimulate your thinking about your own pricing strategy, and maybe consider if you want to make a few changes, perhaps some experiments, or maybe continue this discussion that we've started off with some of your friends, some of your colleagues within the business. So that's the plan. Now, I want to start with a statement which is going to sound so obvious that you'll wonder why I'm telling you this. I want to start by telling you that the price you charge the customer must cover all of your costs and give you sufficient profit. Now, you're thinking, well, thank you very much, Richard. We had no idea that we should price to cover our costs and make a profit. It's really obvious, right? Well, it may be, but here's the interesting thing. I spend a lot of time working on business growth projects for quite large companies. So these are companies doing hundreds of millions, billions. Every time I do a pricing profitability analysis, I find a whole bunch of customers with whom they're losing money. And I don't mean occasionally or sometimes or often, I mean every time. Every one of these large companies is losing money with 5%, 10% more of their customers. Now, the large company, they can get away with it because they can absorb all this cost, but you can't. You've got to get it right. Why is it that these large companies find that they're losing money with some of their customers? Well, to answer that, let's identify the main cost that we have to consider. So first of all, we've got the cost to serve the customer, and that's a specific set of costs for each individual customer. If that customer didn't exist, you wouldn't have those costs. So we're thinking about costs of materials, of time, of travel, communication, all those costs which are specific to that customer, and we call them the variable costs because they vary with the customer. Then you've got a bunch of costs which you have whether you've got customers or not. They're fixed, and they include things like your website, full-time staff, your salary, rent, and so on. And then finally, you'd like to make a profit because you want to grow the business in the future, and you want to pay your shareholders a dividend, and that's you, by the way. So you've got to make sure that the price you charge the customer is going to be sufficient to cover your variable costs, proportion of the fixed costs, and still leave enough money to make a profit. So large companies, they get it wrong because they assume that they're working on average variable costs. They assume that every customer is the same. And so they calculate an average cost to serve each customer. But of course, each customer is different. They require a different amount of money to serve. You can't afford to make that mistake. So you need to make really sure that you're clear about how much it really costs to serve your customer and how much you need to pay for your overheads, your fixed costs, and still make a profit. Right, I think that's probably enough for now. So I'm going to leave you to think about your cost to serve your different customers. And next time, we're going to start looking at some different pricing models and techniques that you might want to consider. So I'll see you then.